being a startup, just like you guys are as an artist, I really want you to consider yourself as a business. Just like what we're doing here, we still got issues with the projector. I can't get online. I was gonna hope to show you some like live Spotify campaigns we're running for clients and what type of save rates they're getting, how we're driving traffic to scale their Spotify and not doing it through like BS playlists, because there's too many of them. 95% of the third-party playlists you will get on do not provide real listeners or traffic. I'm not saying you won't get paid for those streams, but it's not really building a brand. You know what I'm saying? It's like saying I have a food truck downtown. I got 60,000 people following or checking out my Instagram page of my food truck, but there's no customers coming and buying my tacos at all. You know, so you want to build a fan base. So if you're going to scale your Spotify or Apple Music, you want to send real traffic there. Yes, the numbers make it look pretty until you get shut down by Spotify because they detected too many fake plays. You'll get paid on it, but it's a risk. But I know what a lot of people say. They're going to say, well, major labels do it, blah, blah, blah. It's not untrue that major labels do what they do. But the difference is that when a major label artist, even they're like C-level, like C-list artists, if they're already getting, let's call it 1 million organic plays or that they've built up with real fans on a song, they're getting 1 million real plays or streams, and you sprinkle another 30% of fake streams on top of that, another 300,000, the algorithm doesn't get screwed up. It doesn't detect it as much. So when you're on the level, let's say like Tory Lanez or like Justin Bieber or Roddy Ricch put out a song on a Friday and they're competing that Friday for the next week to get the highest placement on the Billboard charts, and they're already getting millions of real streams, views, traffic, and all of that, and the labels sprinkle, a certain percentage of fake streams on top of it just to put them over that mark. So Justin Bieber can say, I got the #1 song for that week, where Roddy Ricch was like, nah, it's a different level of game at that point. But independent artists, if you're just starting out and 90% of your streams are bots, it's super easy for Spotify, Apple Music, any account, any streaming platform, even YouTube, is very easy for them to figure out that, okay, this is not real traffic. And obviously you get penalized for it because if they're required, according to their terms and conditions, to pay for those streams and they're fake, why would they pay out for it? It's like you being a business and you hire a fake employee and they don't ever show up and do real work, but you still got to pay them. They're stupid, right? So I'm not defending none of these platforms, but I'm just trying to explain to you how the business really is and why some of the major labels can get away with it. But I still wouldn't recommend it. I know personally A-list artists that got shut down from Spotify because they overdid it. Their marketing agency or whoever they were working with just went a little too hard with the fake streams. But because they have major label connections and they can get access to the major people at Spotify, they can get their page up and running. Just like, if you guys follow Untitled Chapter, I like to bring up the example how he lost his Instagram page. But when he was still associated with Steve Stout, he was able to call Instagram. They reinstated it. Boozy's now dealing with a similar thing. Let's see if he's got connections, but apparently he's been warned too many times for posting whatever he's posting. So he may not get his Instagram page back. But that's sort of how it works. The more leverage you have, the more connections you have, you can make different things happen. But I'm just saying that to say, even though we can get the projector up and running and show you this, I'm still going to continue on and do what I'm doing. I'm not going to stop. I got some static screens. We're still going to talk about a lot of great stuff. But to you guys as artists and producers, but the point I'm trying to make is don't wait. Just keep putting out content, keep testing it to see if it catches. Because I'm a producer myself. Not saying I get paid millions of dollars, but I have a few productions out there that get a little bit of royalties on it. But the point I'm making is even if when I used to kind of like hold on to my songs in the vault. I'm like, I don't want to even put this out on BeatStars, or I'm going to wait till I blow up or till one of my artists blows up, and then it's going to, now 7 years later, like I don't really do much with those things. Now we use them as background music for my business videos, which is still cool, but the point I'm trying to make is there's no reason to wait. And especially when you're in the beginning stages of your career, you have the luxury to find out whether you suck or not, or to find out what's wrong, what's going on with my music. Is it really being perceived well, or do I need to make changes to it, or can I find a market for it? Because I know a lot of you guys, or a lot of people I talk to say, well, there's all this BS on the radio. Like, how do they get it on there? There's truth to both sides in terms of, yes, if labels have millions of dollars and they can push the hell out of their music and it's constantly on the radio, it's constantly in your face, when you hear something 30 times, eventually you probably start repeating the hook in your sleep, right? And it's like a mediocre song. That's one way. A second way, though, what a lot of people don't admit, because everybody has a personal taste and music is super subjective because it's art, is that they say, well, it's crap. But if it wasn't selling for the label, if they're wearing millions of kids or adults or old people, I don't know, whatever demographic they're targeting, if they weren't buying it, interacting with it, and generating revenue for the people that are investing millions of dollars into especially FM radio campaigns, it wouldn't be out there. You know what I'm saying? So no matter what you think about the music that you hear, there's a reason that it's being out there. And like I said, there could be a situation where an A&R at a label made the wrong choice. They were young A&R, they chose the wrong artist. They had the $1 million budget, they pushed the song, they took a risk, and it sort of flopped, right? It didn't work out, so to speak. So that happens as well. There's so many different situations, but the point is always comes down to business, and there's some type of a business reason behind it, even though somebody may make a mistake or take a risk and it doesn't pan out, things like that. So again, just like our projector's not working, and I'm still moving forward, I can't show you what I wanted to show you today, I'm still gonna show you a lot of useful stuff, and we're gonna move on. So you guys should do the same thing. And what I'm gonna do differently this time that I did last time is probably at 4:45 to 5, I'm just gonna open it up to the room, and we're gonna diagnose problems. You guys let me know if anybody wants to raise their hand. I want to know where you're at, what you're dealing with, what's the problem, see if I can give you some suggestions and really figure it out. But let me move through some of the similar points I did last time when I was here, because I don't think I see any familiar faces. But I think everybody here is new, which is good. So the Spotify thing I kind of already talked about, but at our agency, the way to really scale your Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon Music or Tidal or Deezer, which is mainly utilized in Europe and outside the U.S., you have to drive real traffic to those sites. Just simply putting your music up on everywhere, Spotify, Apple Music, that doesn't mean anything. They're not going to push it for you. It's simply it's like YouTube. You put out a video on YouTube, unless you market it or you do it every single day and slowly start building traffic or building some type of engagement and demand for your product. There's just not many ways around. You got to push it. Years ago, when a lot of these platforms were in their younger stages, for example, YouTube came out, I think officially as a company in 2006. If I'm not mistaken, 2008 or 9, they were acquired by Google. So they really blew up at that point. And even as early as 2011, when I got into the YouTube game, I was doing tutorials. I have a channel called Tech Vitamins. You can still see it. You can still see my old videos, but I used to review Android phones, jailbreak iPhones, and teach people how to use, how to set up a Joomla website or WordPress website, how to use Pro Tools, things like that. So I got comfortable with YouTube, but the reason I'm mentioning that progression is that at the time I was dating my ex-girlfriend, and she was a singer. That's why I got into the music game. Plus, I always wanted to be in it since I moved to the United States. I was in high school. But when we put out covers on YouTube back in 2011, one of her videos literally went micro-viral. Within a week and a half, we got close to 250,000 views. And the song that we did, it was one of those older Heineken commercials. I don't know if you guys remember the Heineken commercials. They were these gritty, 60s style music, but in an R&B fashion. So we reproduced one of those songs. It was an artist from Australia, and when the label detected it, they took it down. Again, the reason I'm mentioning that is because back in the day, if you're on a platform early enough and you put out content on a consistent basis that could be easily searched for, or you can leverage another big name and all of that, you could potentially succeed and even get your brand to a level where you can make money. But those days are becoming more scarce. There's not many situations where in 2021, because the game is so saturated, where you can really hop on a platform and blow up without investing any type of major time, money, or resources into advertising or pushing that content. I mean, TikTok is a decent example because it is unrestricted in terms of how many people the content can reach. And if people got on early enough and you stay consistent, you put out content every day. Even now, if you still get on it and you figure it out and you figure out, how your music could work to the fans that you have out there, or you hop on trends like my man Kato the producer, he constantly, or Beats by J Black, they'll make songs on their MPC, and they'll encourage other artists to sort of get on it and side by side create a little mini 1 minute freestyle podcast. Probably saw those. Well, Kato the producer, Beats by J Black, they got probably 250,000, if not more, followers on TikTok, maybe even more at this point. So when you hop on one of their songs and leverage their brand, you could potentially get a lot of viewers onto your brand if you crush the 1 minute, freestyle. So I want you guys to understand that this is a real business, and unfortunately without the money part, it's very difficult to get out there. Clearly connections matter, right? Even like fairy tale connections or what I call hitting the lottery, where like Drake is your cousin and you really are telling, just put you on, okay, your career is right there, right? But he's also your cousin, just like many, artists that come up that have parents, like, what's his name? Jane Smith, right? Will Smith, famous celebrity, worldwide celebrity. So when his son or daughter decide to be an artist, there's so many things that they have that most independent artists will never have. So that entire process from going from A to Z is completely different, and you probably won't be able to replicate it unless your parents are those parents. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not in those lucky lottery situations, you have to sort of treat it. I always like to compare it to a food truck. And even that sometimes, especially in New York City, depending where you are, may be easier to get up and running than not, as long as you make good food and you probably get that licensed spot in the middle of Manhattan somewhere. As long as, like I said, your food is good, prices are decent, all that foot traffic, people are just hungry. Like, food is in general demand. Just like music is in general demand, but until you develop your own brand, you won't be in demand until your brand's in demand. So just to say I'm an R&B artist, I sing, well, people love R&B, that's true, but you may never be in demand unless you push yourself in demand, right? Just like there's hundreds of super talented vocalists at like any Baptist church on a Sunday in America. But are they ever going to be A-list artists? Are they going to be even local stars in their own community? Maybe outside the church they won't, until they figure out I'm a business, I'm going to, finance some type of marketing strategies, I'm going to develop a brand, we're going to figure out how it works, we're going to post content, I'm going to slowly build my team, hopefully get a manager, maybe get an agent, whatever. So that's important to understand, because the point I'm trying to get to, which was the first thing I talked about last time, is that there's a lot of marketing strategies that are not as apparent to you until you understand the business, that labels, do all the time. But until you start acting like a business, you're sort of like a consumer. And let me tell you about one of the strategies that labels use that you may not think it's like super obvious. And it's not like they're necessarily trying to hide it, because clearly I know it, I figured it out. I was never in the music industry, but I understood business. I knew how to start getting around it, meeting with the right people, just like now I'm associated with the heavy hitters and DJ enough. But still, if you don't get the business, you may not understand how they move, so then you won't be able to figure out how to replicate it. One of those strategies that I like to talk about is when artists that you may just find out about, no matter where you live, that they sort of kind of just blow up, they go viral. Like, how does that happen? The PR agents of that artist at the label will sort of paint a story usually that they're just such a talented artist. Like, they were always the man or the girl, and like it just kind of went. They just put a song on the spot because it sounds awesome to the fans, right? And I'm not saying that's never possible, but more likely than not, probably 99% of the time, that's not the truth. But the way it really happens is that, and I can give you an example of, I don't know if you guys know the artist Moray that's currently out there. He got Quicksand in one of the songs. So I have an artist that's on Create Music Group, which is a major label, and he's on there as well. He uses them for distribution. Are we good on the mic, or we good? Okay. So the way it sort of kind of happens is that, and you can kind of look back at this, and if you can find stories about this or do enough research, you will see that this is kind of how it went. They put out, I think he was an artist before, so there was content out there, but they sort of took everything down once he became associated with a major label or an investor to sort of cleanse the brand or even completely rebrand. Maybe his name was something completely different. But once they start putting out songs, they put out like one single, second single, third. Yes, they had a ton of money to push it through different influencer accounts, through digital marketing and things like that. And at some point they figured out, okay, one of these songs really works. I think Quicksand, what was it? That was like the third or fourth single that they put out. Once they understand that, then you can start doing a radio campaign, because radio is still useful if you have the fuel behind it, the money. So you could do like a startup FM radio campaign, maybe for like 15 to 50,000, depending on which market. Usually there's going to be like your college town FM radio stations, like areas that are not major. Let's call them the C list or Class C areas. There's Class C, B, and Class A. Class A is like Hot 97, right? Or the major FM radio station in Atlanta or LA. But they probably started with the Class C to test it in the FM market space, in these little college towns. Then it worked, then it was Class B. The reason I was Class B is because I'm in the DMV area, our office is in Baltimore, and I started hearing the Quicksand song as early as last year, December, on 92Q in Baltimore and the 93.9 in DC. So I'm like, oh shit. And I found out about him before because I knew the label, right? And I really, like his music. So I'm like, all right, they're testing it, it's gonna go. And then, next thing you see, he's putting out an album, he's on the Breakfast Club, he's on all these different influencers and all that. So the way the labels will do that is they'll bum rush an influencer campaign. What I mean by that is that if you have enough funds, whether it's 15 to 100K, and you're able to get, and sometimes it's paid, to get on the Breakfast Club, or to get on the Joe Budden podcast, or to get on this influencer page, to get on World Star Hip Hop, to get on Say Cheese, to get on the Shade Room and all of this, it sort of happens within like a 45-day period, because I'm sure you guys can all agree that a lot of consumers, a lot of fans that follow the Shade Room will probably follow World Star Hip Hop, or will probably watch the Breakfast Club, or will probably watch, something on MTV that plays hip hop and R&B music, or will probably also watch, whatever else is similar. So if 70% of all those consumers cross over to all these different platforms, and this artist within 45 days starts going from one interview to another, to another, to another, the consumer's like, wow, this artist is blowing up, what's going on? But that's the business strategy of the label. Once they figure out if something works, they bum rush it, and it still costs a lot of money. We're potentially talking $250,000, sometimes more. Even artists on the major level, they're putting up $250,000 to $1 million behind a single that they know is going to work. They'll make potentially 3 to 4 if it's done right. So they'll quadruple their money, or their label will, and they'll get their splits. But it's very rarely a situation where it just goes organically. But again, there's levels to this. And if we're talking about major artists like Beyonce, Drake, Adele, Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber, that's, again, a whole different ballgame, right? The marketing strategies they use, you would never want, maybe if you have the money and you want to take a huge risk, but it doesn't even make sense, even if you're super talented on the lower level. And what I like to compare that to is, imagine you get your corner store restaurant somewhere in Brooklyn, awesome food, way better than any fast food, but you try to do the same type of marketing strategy that even Wendy's or McDonald's is using, and they're a multinational, corporation, you will go broke. You wouldn't even be able to afford, first of all, to even pull off anything like that, because you're not on that level of business. It doesn't mean your food is not better, healthier, and better than any of these restaurants we're talking about, but the level of business you're at, it just doesn't make sense. So I wanted to talk about that strategy because it's sort of hidden. You wouldn't think about it. You would think it's the artist's talent and just the buzz going around that's getting them to these different levels. But again, 9 times out of 10, it's orchestrated this way. It's a calculated strategy that goes from A to B to Z, It just has a process, and it's a lot of times paid for, or labels have the connections so they can make those calls, sometimes pull favors, things like that. But at the end of the day, it's a calculated business strategy. The other one I kind of hinted on before, where I was saying that, A-list artists, it's not, a secret that they'll use fake streams, bots, and views and all that. Plenty of blogs and stories have come out even against 6ix9ine and Nicki Minaj when they put out that YouTube video that had 100 million extra fake views, or, it happens all the time. But again, like I said, sometimes for them, especially if they don't even get shut down from YouTube, it's almost like a good thing. Right, when they use that term, even bad PR or bad publicity is good publicity, that's sort of how it works. Because it's maybe bad, but it's not horrible, But when it's bad, somebody sexually assaulted somebody else, or somebody got caught up for a murder charge or something worse, sometimes, artists, celebrities, even business people, majors, they don't recover from that. So take everything with a grain of salt. Because don't just say, oh, any publicity is good publicity. I don't believe that, So be strategic, your brand is your brand. But that was the other strategy that is sort of hidden, not apparent, but that they do it all the time. So let me get to another point that I know you guys probably may want to know about, or I'm going to warn you about, because you may fall for this sooner or later, because it's very tempting. but the why perception, well, we talk about the perception marketing, boosting the views with fake is not going to work for an unknown artist. It's going to be super, like, I've never seen it work because you ruin your pages, you ruin your algorithm. Even if you appear like you're popping, even if your music is good, it's going to put you in a situation where you won't be able to retarget any real fans. Let's say you have 800,000 fake people, 10,000 real people. It'll be very difficult for you to retarget the real people because 90% of your traffic, if you run ads on it, is going to be retargeting bots. So any amount of money you would spend on trying to sell merch or tickets, or like me trying to get you guys here, you know, I spend $150 to get 60 tickets submitted. I know that 60 people didn't show up is always going to be a percentage, but you know, it's not bad. Plus, you see this room couldn't be, you know, fit really more than 15 more people in here. But if you fake your views and you ruin your social media pages that way, you won't be able to do that. So let me talk about, there's another one that I wanted to talk about, which is engagement groups. Do you guys know what that is? Yeah? All right, so it's basically, I would say 99% of those accounts are real people. I think you pay monthly or a lump sum to be into it. There's probably a lot of blue check pages or verified pages, especially on Instagram. I don't know if this works even on any other platforms, but it's basically a group of Instagram users. Then whenever you put out a post, everybody, like 200 comments has to be made. You get a bunch of like simple emoji comments like good job, fire. Sometimes they're stupid, like you'll put out a video and they'll be like cool pic bro with a fire emoji. You know, like there's just, I don't know if their assistants are doing it or they hire interns. But the point that what they're trying to do is like trigger the algorithm to where if you get all these comments right away on your image or, you know, likes and all that, that'll kind of push it further out to more of your people. Well, if more of your people are not engaged in the first place, then it's not going to get far. But one thing I could tell you is imagine this. It's sort of like those people that are in those engagement groups, they can usually care less about what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're a health and fitness, like workout person, or an artist, or a producer, or you're selling cookies out of a food truck in New York. Like, they're just doing it because that's the point of their whole engagement group, right? So you're not going to get any fans from it. Will you gain fans because your algorithm will push that content to more people? Well, it's not going to push it to more people that don't know you. It's not going to push it to unknown, you know, Instagram users. Only advertising will do that. So if you already started with crap in terms of how many people follow you and what type of quality people follow you, it just makes it look good. And I guess the theory is like, well, if somebody stumbles up on my account, they'll be so amazed that I'm so engaged and all of that, that they'll trust me. There's so much content out there in this world today that people fall off. You've really got to grab them. You really have to grab consumers. The attention span is getting lower and lower. The amount of artists, you guys, if you watch my videos, the latest number I think is like something like 60,000 songs are put up on Spotify every single day. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just telling you, don't fall for that. Second thing that's going on, oh yeah, come on in. The second thing that's going on is that these strategies sort of, they'll work for a year and a half because it's like hackers trying to figure out how to game the system, and then Instagram catches up and they'll fall off. And I already know because I have a software development company, I already know Instagram is catching up because what's going to happen is, let's say there's an engagement group of 1,000 people, right, that are always the same accounts, interacting with the same accounts. With the first 200 comments, it's super easy for a code or algorithm to catch that on Instagram. So if Instagram catches that, they're going to start dinging your page in a negative aspect to say, like, completely suffocate this person's ability to organically get their content out there because they're trying to game the system. I give that strategy like another 8 months to a year max. And the reason I could tell you that is, like I said, I am a software developer. Back in 2011 when I got on YouTube game, I developed my own code to basically get fake views on YouTube, just trying it. I basically harvested 250,000 IP addresses, which was very cheap at the time, and would just point the same URL, bunch of IP addresses just to drive views. Okay, great. It never really helped anything, right? It always organically or pushing something worked, but that became illegal. YouTube caught that real quick. Then YouTube stopped using views as a measurement of engagement. You have to have a certain combination of comments from real accounts that they can verify, saves, likes, retention rate, which was a new parameter introduced like 4 years into YouTube even introducing analytics, which measures how many times a person watches the video. Do they forward back or fast forward? Is there like real human being engagement? So it's getting more and more complex. Another strategy that was popular like 3 years ago on Instagram that some of our clients that were coming to us were using, I was like, yo, just stop doing that because it's going to ruin your account, is that they would have a company that would automatically create like 60 fan pages. Let's say your artist is named Bob, and you got like Bob Slovakia, Bob Czech Republic fan page, Bob Germany fan page, Bob Nigeria fan page, all these different fan pages, and then they would put automated bots on those fan pages to generate comments, traffic, and all of that, thinking that somehow it would trickle down, like some real users would trickle down to the original page because the original page was tagged in the description of the fan pages, right? And it would sort of build it up. Now, I'm not going to say that some of the early sort of hackers or people that, it's creative, right? It's a creative way to game the system. Some people benefit from it. But again, within like 6 to 8 months, Instagram shut that thing down. Once they start seeing that you were generating fan pages within like multiple in 24 hours, it's just not real behavior. It just doesn't happen that way. Even when a label blows up an artist to an A-list level, the fan pages generally come with some type of organization. Like let's say you're at Universal, and Universal obviously has an office in South Africa, Nigeria, and Western Europe, Japan, and all of that. So in the coordinated effort, they'll slowly create these fan pages, or usually they like coordinate with like college kids and things like that to run them and things like that. But it's never in like 48 hours, you just have 60, you know what I'm saying? So the point I'm trying to make is that Instagram, every platform always catches up to this stuff. So if you think that that's worth investing money into to somehow game the system because you're hoping that, yes, I'm super talented and somehow people are going to just find me through this perception-based marketing, I'm telling you that you might as well start investing those dollars into real marketing, even though it's going to take you a lot longer. At least you're going to get in front of real people, and you'll be able to figure out if your content truly works or not. Because I have clients that came to me, and I don't know if you guys know who Wendy Day is. We had a client together. I'm not going to mention their names, but they fooled both me and her initially until my team looked through their data, and they were in an engagement group where not only was their account like 300,000, followers, verified and all of that, but every post was consistently always getting at least 200 comments, right? But a little bit above sometimes here and there, which was already weird. Always getting at least 5,000 likes, minimum. Sometimes 5,300 something, whatever. So we instantly, in a few minutes, my team was like, yeah, he's using an engagement group. But it was so bad, the reason I mention it is because the artist became delusional. They truly thought that their music was good, and it wasn't. I'm not saying that there was a lot of potential to improve. They needed better cadence in rapping. They needed better writing. The instrumental, like they had money, So otherwise they wouldn't have been working with Wendy Day. But the money was there. The team was potentially there, but the artists fooled themselves into thinking that they were good and they needed a lot of work. And then when it came down to explain the situation and trying to get them with better writers and trying to tweak the whole process, the talent, the songs and all of that, there was clearly a lot of pushback to a point where we're all wondering like, yeah, we might just have to let this client, like, what's the point? If we're not going to have, not saying we got to have a lot of fun when we work with everybody, but it's like, it should be benefiting both sides. Like, we want to help you guys. We don't need, any resistance from the client. But the point I'm trying to make is that this whole perception game not only ruined his account to where we couldn't retarget, we couldn't really get real people engaged. It would have been like 6 months of a lot of money of targeting real people, like cleansing the data in a sense. But what was even worse is that the artists themselves became delusional, and it was tough to get out of that mental spot, So that's another thing I want to mention. So if you're using any of those or fake likes, comments, and all that, again, I would highly suggest against it, especially in the early stages. I would never use it. So I don't even want to say when you become an A-list artist, just like, beef up your stats by fake stats. There's many artists that never do that, and they are crushing even the artists that are like B-list artists that are trying to do that. It's not, eventually, the truth comes to light. It's sort of the karma thing. So I kind of highlighted all the things of kind of what not to do. We make sure we got enough time. So let me get into some real ways of how to convert your fan base into real revenue, right? So as I mentioned, you're going to hear me talk about this all the time. You got to invest in the marketing. Again, it doesn't mean it has to be all digital marketing. You know, I could push that all day because I have a digital marketing agency, but it's not the truth. And I talk about it a lot on my Instagram page as well, on my videos. It's always a combination of digital marketing or physical marketing, like handing out flyers, or I used to own a company called the Aero Sound Spinners. I don't know if you guys ever seen spinners on the side of the street with like 6-foot arrows doing tricks. We're actually on ESPN now, it became a sport, right? But that's a type of guerrilla marketing to really catch the attention of like traffic going through. There's not a lot in New York because it's such a cramped place. Yeah, they have ordinances to like, we do some flows, like when they have the Labor Day parade, we got hired before to do stuff like that when it was allowed, but not on the normal day. But physical marketing is important, you know, which I would also say a billboard downtown on 42nd Street, like that's sort of physical because you're walking by, you know, even though it's on the digital screen. And then connections, right? Connections are huge. Like the term, your network is your net worth, again, a lot of truth to it. It's not the end-all be-all. Just because you got the network doesn't mean you're going to get on. But again, there's a lot of truth to that. And I always make a comparison. I'll put it to you this way. New York City is a music town, just like Nashville, just like LA, Atlanta, Miami, sort of like a secondary. Chicago may be secondary. Houston may be secondary. Outside of that, there's not many music towns. Well, Memphis, but it's for a different type of music. It's more like, you know, jazz, blues, and like a particular niche. But the reason I'm bringing that up is because if you are in an area where all these movers and shakers live, right, it's a lot easier to build those connections. Like, for example, Enough and the Heavy Hitters, like they live here. They work downtown Manhattan, and they come here once a month to do the show. So you guys be able to like meet them potentially, just know them because you live in the area. The chance of that is a lot greater than me living in Baltimore, because they're probably never, you know, unless they were on the tour back in the day when, you know, Enough was like touring with Biggie, he's probably not going to come down to Baltimore for nothing, or even DC, or Kansas, or, you know, these towns where the music industry is not. So being in a town like this is beneficial because the labels have offices here, Spotify's here, the industry lives here, the industry infrastructure. And I want to give you a real business comparison so you maybe understand in a different way, so you understand how beneficial that is and why networking in this town is way better than if you were in Kansas or somewhere else. You probably have to lean more on digital marketing, unless you're traveling to Nashville or Atlanta or New York on a frequent basis. But I had a company called Renew It from 2008 to 2016. It was an energy efficiency in Maryland. We basically did energy audits on like row homes, single family homes, commercial buildings, apartment buildings. We would like come in, do an energy audit, replace the light bulbs, make sure we're energy efficient, not using too much energy. Well, in 2008, there was a reason we got into that. The real estate market crashed, so we're already in real estate, so we had a network of a lot of access to homes, put it that way. And the Obama's administration was putting a lot of money into energy efficiency for the country. And whatever California perfected, because they've dealt with super high gas prices, electricity prices, they were like the mecca of energy efficiency for America. So Obama's administration was trying to replicate that, sort of those processes, that business environment, that infrastructure on the East Coast. So when they did that, they poured a lot of money into the DC, Virginia, Maryland area to get the industry off the ground. So we're able to get SBA loans, we're able to get contracts with the local utilities because they wanted to do it. So as long as you were certified, you had the right certification, you were set up as a business and all that, you were able to participate in these contracts. And that's how we grew a company from just me and two of my business partners to 50 plus employees. That's what gave me enough time, money, and resources to be able to get in the music industry and make a lot of mistakes at first. But that was only possible at the time in the Maryland DMV region, because that's where the money was flowing, that's where the DC government was at, that's where the programs were happening, and it was the East Coast section for that industry to flourish. If we try to do that in Texas, which was oil country at the time still, we would have never got a company like that off the ground. No way possible. It just wouldn't have happened, That's a similar situation of where if you're an artist in Kansas or in the middle of nowhere in Ohio, and you're trying to rely on a network or connections to make it, there's really nothing there, right? That industry doesn't exist there. Now again, If we were in Texas and I want to start an energy efficiency company, at best what I'll be able to do is maybe start putting out educational content about how to be energy efficient, how to turn off the lights, how to maybe evaluate which LED bulb you're going to buy or which automation system to turn off the lights and all of that. And I might have gotten a website off the ground because I would have been able to saturate the US and Canada and get a bunch of listeners, maybe get people to pay for, I don't know, online webinars or somehow, sponsor our website with all that content through other companies because, light bulb companies would want me to start talking about their light bulbs because I would drive traffic to the Home Depot website. And so, see what I'm saying? So it's possible, but it's the same thing as you being in that Ohio region and you have the music. There's no physical, infrastructure. There's no business in that area, but you can put your music online and introduce it to the whole United States. And then if you have the opportunity, travel to New York or whatever. So you guys, if you live in this area, you're here, you have so much more advantage than other artists in other areas because you do have the network. You can rely on that a third of the way. You live in an area where within a 10-mile radius of this spot right here, there's like 25 million people, which probably at least half of them listen to probably the music you're trying to create or the genre of music. So you can do a lot of physical marketing, pop-ups, little shows, go to high schools, colleges, whatever. And then, of course, digital marketing. But it also turns out that digital marketing is the most expensive here. If I wanted to create a campaign, and let's say, I got you guys in here, I was running ads on it, it costs a lot to do it in New York. If I did it again in Baltimore, it would be like twice as cheap. Because it's less people, it's not a market that's in large demand. Because think about how many companies of all sorts advertise just in this region, because how many stores are here, how many storefronts are trying to drive traffic to their store. So Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, I don't care what ad platform it's like the stock market. Wherever there's more demand, it's going to be more expensive. But as an artist, putting out your music first, you could just advertise on the national level because you have the whole United States or Canada to do so. And you're getting your product in front of the right people, even though they may be in LA or Chicago, or it's usually the bigger towns that engage with your content. But still, you want to get in front of real people. But being in New York, as opposed to being even in the DMV, you have the huge advantage that you can come to events like this, network. I'm sure every single Friday, Saturday, probably even Thursday night, there's a music business or just music-related event going on somewhere. I guarantee it. So that is important. But then it's like it turns out. So then you're like, well, there's all this business stuff I got to learn, marketing. How much do I spend on being an artist and the business aspect of it? That's why a team is important. But also in the beginning, it's probably going to be difficult to get a team up and running, right? Because you got to either pay for them, like hire the right components of the people, or you got to wear all the hats yourself, which I have done as well. I had to learn how to produce, how to engineer, even to a point where I just loved it, and I did a mix and master a few songs for Universal, MMG, for Rick Ross's label. Rocky Fresh was the artist that we made songs for. But I had to figure that out. I had to figure out how to put the website together. I had to figure out by getting scanned for like 20, 30K of what marketing and PR companies not to hire. Because they just gave us bot views, fake this, fake that, bunch of perception, fly out here, do this. And then digital radio digital radio campaigns where the stations were complete duds. And we're getting reports weekly. Oh, you got 700 spins on the station. Okay, awesome. But who listened to? Where are these users you speak of? It took a while for me to figure out, you can put up a radio station tomorrow. Just get a URL on GoDaddy, get this app that you can pay like $30 a bucks for, that you can have a radio station app on Android and, Apple. And you can have a real radio station as long as you put out content, you start marketing it just like real radio stations do, you know what I mean? But all that I had to learn. So it goes back to so how much time do you need to spend on learning the business and being an artist? There's no clear answer for that, but one suggestion I can give you is that in the beginning stages of your career, either front load creating a decent amount of songs, like 3 to 10 max, and then spend the whole next, let's say it takes you, a couple $1,000s to create 3 to 6 really good songs that you believe are good in the first 3 months or so. Cool, do that, get them finalized, get the artwork and all that, and then spend the next year marketing the hell out of it just to see if it works. And the budget I would suggest, or even the time spent, I would say is 80-20. In the beginning stages, focus 20% on the music. Once you start taking it seriously as a business, I'm not saying that Once you're like a 4-year-old till like 15, you just love music, you do it, you play, like, okay, fine. But I'm saying once you start taking it seriously, initially spend 20% on creating the product, and then especially in the entertainment music industry, or if you're doing TV shows or whatever, content, you have to spend majority of the time marketing it to see if it works and if it's gonna catch on. Because otherwise it's gonna be very expensive. Or you're gonna be spinning wheels for years and years and years of just putting out music, which again, in 2011, when a lot of these social media platforms started to come out for the first time, that was sort of possible if you just stayed super consistent and constantly put mixtapes out and all of that. There are a few cases of that, but still, that's almost not possible anymore. Just because of everybody's tried it, done it, everybody done covers, try to blow up on YouTube, doing remixes and all that. Still possible on certain levels, but you still gotta have to push that. So in the beginning, you know, focus on that marketing and the network and the business aspect. Even if you don't have money for digital marketing, that's the thing, like you have to figure it out. Even if you have $300, you might as well join my Accelerator, learn how to run the ads, and start with $300 a month. That's $10 a day. You'll learn some things. You learn how real people engage with it, what you need to do to tweak it, are you gonna be able to invest more in it, so on and so forth. You're gonna have to go through that process. Later on, you're gonna be spending thousands. Right now, I spend about $2,500 a month just to my brand, and just to constantly, you guys, if you follow me, you see that I put out content every single day. That still costs me money to do, but on top of that, I'm marketing that content at all times. I've never stopped marketing since like October or November 2017 of creating my brand in the music industry. And that was already after 3 years of learning part-time what not to do and spending all that money to basically, you know, getting scammed and just learning that you have to treat it full-time, it's gonna work differently, so on and so forth. So that's absolute key, right? And again, if you have the minimal amount on social media, cool. Start digital marketing with the, you know, again, if you could do $10 a day, $300 a month, then you need to do that. If you can't do that, honestly, you may have to wait to start taking it as a business seriously. Maybe be a hobbyist, nothing wrong with that. Or, I'm not saying you can't figure out a networking or physical strategy of somehow making it happen. Again, especially in New York. I used to live in Brooklyn in Fort Greene for almost 2 years, so I know this area very well. But how many times do you see people like dancing through the trains, right? Or being on 42nd Street, Bluetooth speaker, like right there, just playing the guitar or singing or rapping over beats that are already out. All of that, you can develop a fan base. Get a little board, you know, as big as this little light cover. Just put it next to you and have a QR code. Boom. Scan it. Follow me. You know what I'm saying? You could do a lot of, you can get a lot of foot traffic. If your music is good, you'll develop a fan base. You know, my artist, John or Nothing, Jon, he lived in Vegas for a year and a half. It was sort of a move that he made on the whim with his ex-girlfriend. They left, we were both in the DMV. I was like, all right, well, you're out there. Let's utilize the situation. How are we gonna, do this? So we started doing a lot of covers. He would do the vocals over there. I would reproduce the beat. We would have our guy in Nashville mix it. We would put it up on YouTube as soon as we could, like Rihanna remixes, whatever. So that was one way of doing it without spending too much money because we had the resources, the studio, the mixing engineer. And another thing he was doing, he got out on the strip with a Bluetooth speaker. He sings, and he was making like $70 a day in tips. I'm not even talking about a day, 3 hours, because he's talented. Or even if you're just a decent singer, whatever, like it can happen. Honestly, even if you probably get tips regardless if you're genuine, you're just trying out there and, you take the feedback, you don't get angry at people if they every once in a while scream like you suck or whatever. Just figure it out. But what I'm saying is you can get in front of people that way without spending money, especially in this region. Again, if you're in Alabama in a city of 2,000 people in the middle of nowhere, that strategy probably won't work. So let me see what else we didn't cover. Okay, another thing I talked about last time. Okay, so the making the money part. Let me show you what we do. So as you start building your audience and you have real people following you, you can start retargeting them. Just like I've retargeted you guys because you either follow. Yeah, I mean, on this particular one, I didn't target any new people that don't follow me. I only retargeted people that already follow me, right? And probably caught you guys' attention one way or another. Even if you don't follow me, you probably engaged with one of my ads in the past, and then it popped up. That's how the algorithm works. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have seen it. So, I mean, has anybody seen my ad for the first time that never heard of me that's in this room? You have, okay. So maybe somebody took your phone in the past, engaged with one of my ads, and then you saw it. I don't know how it happened, but I try to intentionally only retarget people that follow me. But the way you start making money from it is that once you start building a real fan base, you're engaging with them, and you'll see it because people are going to start DMing you, communicating with you. You know, every once in a while saying, you know, bro, your content is dope. I get so many DMs per day, at least 15 to 20. 80%, you know, are just thanking me for the content. They're not ready financially or whatever, or I'll tell them, you know, join my Accelerator. Some are, you know, even labeled. That's how I get most of my business. Like they said, look, we've been following you for some time. You clearly prove you know what you're talking about. We've seen who you associate yourself with. We've seen some results on your website, da-da-da-da. Same way if you produce music. If you produce music, you know, you may eventually get reached out by another major artist or A&R, whatever, through direct messages, through Twitter. But the same way as you start building your audience, you can retarget them and sell some merch, maybe. Or if you create a Patreon page and you really have an engaged audience and you're like, you know what? You guys like my final product? Maybe you all want to follow me live as I'm producing in the studio, like cooking up, like creating the track, laying down the vocals on it or whatever, and you're willing to pay $2.99 a month for that, kind of like OnlyFans, but Patreon is, you know, more for creatives. Honestly, you could use OnlyFans if you wanted to, or if it's a fans only or OnlyFans. OnlyFans, I think, right? So it's just a platform that's a subscription-based platform. That's it. It has a certain like niche for, you know, a few reasons. But you could do something like that, and you can convince people, all right, you know, I support this artist. I'll pay him $2.99 a month. Imagine getting 1,000 of that. That's $3,000 a month just on the regular. That now you can use towards marketing and continue to build and build and build, right? Once you have real fans and you start looking at your data, because there's not just one platform. You can look at Instagram, Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, TikTok, every platform that's big enough that you probably want to be on and even invest time into being on there will tell you where your engagement happens and what locations they're at. I know exactly how many people follow me in New York, in this area, so I know that for a couple $100, I could probably fill up a room with 15, 30, maybe, you know, more people. If I had a few more days, I've just been crunched this month. I was in Atlanta and all that kind of last minute. But if you're an artist and you know there's an advance notice and you know you're going to be performing or doing a little mini tour, you start maybe up in Connecticut, you do New York, Jersey City, Philly, and Baltimore, you know you have fans there, and you remarket or retarget 45 days ahead of time, you could probably get 50 people, 100 people in the room. If you have a following like mine or similar, at 60,000, 100,000, you know, fans, and you're like, damn, you got to build 60,000 fans just to get 50 to 100 people. The reality is yes, because you look at, like a Drake, he'll sell out a Madison Square Garden, right? How many does that hold? Like 60,000, 50? No, like 20,000. Or, okay, even less. I'm sure he could sell out not the Yankee Stadium, the Jet Stadium, because that's where I went to see Eminem and Rihanna, right? So that holds like 65,000, right? But they got to put some effort. They got to run some marketing. But how many millions of people does Drake have following in New York? And what's 60,000 in percentage-wise of, like, let's say 10 million? We're talking like 3%, 2%, right? And it's a 2 to 5% game. And I'll tell you this because this is what happens in real estate. This is what happens in almost any business. Because of my e-commerce company, my software development company, we work with brands like Victoria's Secret, GNC, Goodyear, and all of that. We see their conversion rates. I don't market for them. We do the software development, the back end, the e-commerce platform. But I know that when they spend $250,000 a month in marketing, we see what it converts into. Again, 8. If you get an 8% conversion, meaning if you're getting in front of 100 customers and 8 will actually pay money for something, that's an awesome, you know, conversion rate. 10% is standard? Okay, so it depends on, you know, what you're doing. On e-commerce, usually 3 to 8 is what we're seeing. But you're right, for artists, if you have a very good brand, even 25% can be converted. Right, and there's a difference. It goes back to the quality of engagement, because if you have 1,000 fans that are super engaged, and that you're super fans, hey, you could maybe convert 50% of them, right? But if you have 100,000 low quality fans, maybe 1% will come out. You know, and I'm not saying low quality is because you're not doing anything good. Maybe because you're not advertising enough, or maybe you had a situation where you bum rushed advertising for a period of 4 months. You were able to accumulate a lot of real fans, but then you had to take a year break because some unfortunate, you know, whatever happened, you had no more money. And in the music industry, really in any business, If you partially do it, you know that term out of sight, out of mind? Especially in the entertainment industry with so much content out there, like if you don't continue that snowball going down the hill and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you wait 6 months after bum rushing it for 4 months, you might as well start over in a year. Because even though you might have, let's say, accumulated 30, and I know this for a fact because we've done this for a few clients, unfortunately they had to stop. Let's say you accumulate 30,000 fans, and they come back in almost like 9 months, the engagement is very low. Why? Because you're not continuously getting, they'll forget. And even if you put out content every day, you guys all know, other than TikTok and LinkedIn, all these platforms limit how many people that are following you, your content will reach. Facebook is the worst. If you have a Facebook business page, like 1%. Instagram used to be 30%, now it's like 10 or something like that. You know, it went down, it changes all the time. These things change all the time. So, but that's sort of how you kind of, in a realistic way, convert your fan base or your music into money. Obviously, streaming pays out money, but in the beginning of most artists' career, independently, that's pennies on the dollar. Yes, the money is going to be there from day one, but it's, you know, 1 million streams on Spotify is roughly $3,500, depending on maybe 4,000 tops. On Apple Music is about $6,000. You know, and again, maybe you'll get away with 1 million fake streams, but even 1 million fake streams are probably going to cost you somewhere around that price tag anyways, like maybe $1,500, $2,000. So even if you make a little bit of profit, again, you may get lucky for 1 million, 2 million, 3 million streams. After you're going to get called, they're going to shut you down. And getting booted off of Spotify sucks because then you have to rebrand. Or then you're going to have a lopsided brand because you'll still be on Apple Music and everywhere else, but Spotify will not let you come back under that same artist name. Think about that. Like, so you're going to be one artist on Apple Music, Tidal, and everywhere else, and then Spotify, it just doesn't make sense, right? So, but that's sort of how you like really convert your fan base into, you know, real profits, real, you know, cash. And let me show you, this is, I do have these screens at least from last time. Let me see how these are in this order. So this is sort of what total income, okay, let me go back. Some of the higher level clients or the ones that are ready, or if I was approaching an investor, this is a Google sheet, so it's supposed to have like the rows and columns and the cells. I know it's very little, but basically what I'm doing here is I'm mapping out and projecting a 18-month scenario, a year and a half, of if I got an investor at $100,000, $1 million, $300,000, whatever. I need to know what's possibly realistic, or to say, no, we're going to go after $500,000, and because it's needed, because of our experience, we know how, we know what we're going to do with it, we know how we're going to, you know, market, and I'm mapping out everything. I'm going to give them an idea of what the money's being spent for. You see like YouTube, Facebook advertising, Snapchat. This is honestly like 2 years old, but I wanted to bring it up. Then that's the digital social media promotion. Then you got PR. You see that PR doesn't even start till month 8. Because if you're doing PR too early, again, you're going to get scammed. And the reason is, I'm not saying you can't start local, but put it this way, and if this happened to me, this is how I got sort of, not scammed, but I just didn't know. And of course, the PR agency didn't let us know because they wanted to get the money. But if you're too early and you don't have any accolades, any numbers, anything real that you achieved, you're not going to get on XXL magazine. You're not going to get on Rolling Stones. You're not going to get on none of these things because, trust me, how many brands do you think are trying to go after those magazines? And Rolling Stones can choose because not only do they have A-list artists that, you know, whenever, again, you know, J. Cole puts out an album, their PR agent or their manager is like, yo, we need to get him on such and such magazine, blah, 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 because the thing is about to come out. It's an orchestrated campaign. So if a PR agency in the early stages of your brand tells you, yeah, we're going to get you all these blogs and all that, what they're not telling you is that even though if they may truly reach out to those people because they have access to those editors and bloggers at those organizations, those magazines, those influencer networks, those people are probably going to say, I mean, there's not much there yet. They're not ready yet. And the PR agency is going to call you right back and say, hey, we did our job. We reached out. We try to place you, but right now it's just not going to go. You know, you would hope that businesses are honest and be like, look, you're not ready. Many PR agencies are, but those are sort of the type of PR agencies you'd be surprised that almost don't even want to get a hold. They don't want regular consumer, almost business, you know, just become a business artist, get in touch with them because their customer is the label. Now, I'll tell you that, you know, honestly, that imagine a PR agency that has 15 employees. They're a boutique agency, strong team. that can do a lot of things for artists like DaBaby or Beyonce or Mariah, just big name artists working with labels and their connections. Do you think they want to take 1,000 calls a month from artists that will barely be able to afford it, there's nothing there? That agency would never be able to show a case study of what they've been able to do, because you can't do much with a brand that doesn't have anything in it, you know what I'm saying? But so I'm just kind of going off a tangent left and right, but I'm telling you that there's a reason that that was empty for a while, and we looked at month 7 because we figured in the first 7 months we're going to bum rush some digital marketing, build a little something, create some type of like fabulous storyline, so that way if we pitch it even to local bloggers or newspapers, it'll get picked up. And again, don't expect that you're going to get on Rolling Stones or Vibe or XXL. Start local, but there's not many agencies that focus on local. Local, what I mean is like find that blogger from Brooklyn that's really putting time and energy into their brand. Maybe they got 12,000 followers. You could see his real engagement and they love to talk about hip hop music, for example. Like reach out to them. That's PR as well. Start small. Like if I was in Howard County we're in Maryland, Howard County has the Howard County Flyer. Right, we have a county newspaper. Now everything's online, so they have the culture section, and they'll have the entertainment section, whatever. You could probably land on that. Because if you own your county and you're like, yo, this is talented artists come out of Howard County, how often does that happen for that county? Not often. So if you get access to their editor or whatever, that may happen. But being in Maryland, that's the county I'm talking about, even Baltimore Sun may be out of reach. Because now Baltimore Sun covers like the whole state. They're going to have bigger stories. It's very rare they're going to cover something that's in the beginning stages of just happening, unless, again, it's super innovative or just so captivating that it's worth talking about. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, the journalists, they have the freedom most of the time to do mostly what they want, unless, of course, the editor at the top is like, nah, we're not running the story. You know what I'm saying? But you also have to understand how PR agencies work, because these editors, they're either investigative journalists and they need to be out there every day 9 to 5 hunting these stories down, or if you get access to them and you give them a nice, beautiful story on a silver platter, they're like, wow, you're amazing, you have an amazing story. It doesn't have to be music. Like I talk about this a lot. You can, if you have the funds and you do like a back-to-school drive in your community and make sure that a lot of kids in the local high school that otherwise would never have an iPad or backpacks or whatever, that's a compelling story. And you can run with that as a first headline story, and then guess what it's attached to it? Well, this person was responsible for that. And guess what? He's also an artist. And if you want to check out his music, boom. You know what I'm saying? But, so anyways, that's down the line. Then you got audio-visual product. You see that there's not much there. The material has been created, right? At least in this scenario, because we had the studio. So I was like, we already have the product. Now we need the money to push it. If you come to the investors to say, nah, we need you to pay for the product. We need you to help us market it. We need you to help you do this. If you get even lucky somehow, maybe your rich uncle or somebody that you know will like fund that for you. But then like don't expect to keep your none of that. Like they're like, okay, so you have nothing. You don't even know if you work as an artist. You want me to pay for all your studio time, music, all of that, marketing, PR, I want to radio promotion, distribution, and what do I get out of it? This is the biggest risk ever, right? Like what I tell people, and investors know this. Most investors, they're not going to go to the entertainment industry as an industry where you make a ton of money if you don't know what you're doing. If you do know what you're doing, you can make a whole lot of money. But that comes only a few ways. Either you've been in it, or you know somebody at a label level, or somebody that's smart that, so let me go back to another slide. Here's another one, publishing, licensing. That one was pretty much empty for us because I already had a DistroKid account. All this stuff, this is free. YouTube is free to put stuff out there, right? I have a category down at the bottom where it has basically staff, like somebody that maybe we're going to hire for $15, $20 an hour that will be our sort of publisher. They'll make sure, every time a song is out, it comes out on DistroKid properly, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. But, then we have guerrilla marketing. You do see that guerrilla marketing, again, because of the area we were in, I'm not going to focus on it too much because we're going to bum rush it digitally. If you're in New York, this whole section may be a lot bigger in terms of how much money you're spending, right? Merchandise for sale. You see again in the beginning, yeah, could you go out there and start like forcing people to buy your t-shirts outside the trunk of your car? Maybe. But like build a brand. Once you have a brand, people are more likely to support you by buying t-shirts or whatever else may be. right? You got sponsorship, endorsements, which you see is empty because I'm gonna get into that in a second. Travel, HR, human capital, you see 5,400, 1,000. I already had a team, but if you have to hire a team of marketers or somebody to do all this grunt work while you're making the music and execute on everything else, that price tag may be higher. But then I have sort of how much it's going to cost us per month of expenditure to start this whole process going. And then you have the positive section. Then you have the media distribution of how much can we project you're going to be making. You see these numbers are low. We're talking about streaming revenue, $500. It's nothing crazy. But at least it's money. At least it's showing the investor, look, every month we're getting bigger and bigger and bigger, 38, 4,300, at the end of the 16 months. Let me show you another one. Then we got product sales. Again, probably nothing in the beginning. This is on-demand t-shirts, hats, and mugs and revenue. You see how it's progressively, if we do everything right, the projection is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. If I go to the last one, this is sort of the bottom of it. Then we have, touring and shows. Look where touring and shows, I estimated would even be possible that we would be making $1,000, month 8. Again, I'm thinking we're going to bum rush the DC area, Baltimore, up in New York and all that. The artist is going to get known. Month 8, I can start retargeting, just like I retargeted you guys to get you in here. I'll be able to get maybe, 50 people at $20, that's $1,000. So it's realistic. I'm not telling no investor we're going to be making 10K. If it happens, awesome. The investor's going to be super pleased and probably want to pour more money into it, but this is based on real experience and being realistic. Then you got endorsement sponsorships. Again, almost a whole year before I think we're going to even have a brand worthy of spending time to hit up companies and say, would you want to put your clothes on this artist? Or would you want to give us some, let's say you're a DJ and you want some LED light bulbs, that you can put around your screen or whatever. Why would I want to do that as an LED company? Why? Because, hey, I'm doing clubs full of 500 people twice a week. So your product's going to be in front of 1,000 people twice a week. Oh, okay, I see where you're getting, Oh, are you going to put our QR code to buy this? Oh, okay, now, so you have to have something convincing to tell an investor or a company of why they're going to sponsor you, why would they put their money behind you. And then at the bottom, it's sort of just, this is again an example scenario, like look, month 1, 2, we're just burning money. We're just spending money. Money starts coming in, 2,100, a little bit. It starts equaling. Month 10 is the first positive month potentially. And then we're saying, we're going to keep going and make more money. But that's this is what I would actually, this is what we have done, this is what I would do if you're actually approaching an investor. But this is the business side of things. I know this sucks. I sort of enjoy it and I can put it together. I'd rather sell it, but it's important. I had to go through it to even figure out, not just to even try to get money from an investor, but then a lot of times I was putting my own money up. And I'm not just going to waste it. So once we were like, all right, we're going to do this for real, I planned this out myself. So even for yourself, plan out Google Docs is free. You don't have to pay your brain to work. So you just got to kind of put your mind to it and say, all right, is this realistic for me? Am I going to be able to get this up and running? How are we going to do it? What's the amount of money? So on and so forth. What time is it? 4:33. All right, I'm going to stop it right here and let's open it up I want to interact with you guys and see if we can, help out with whatever you guys have going on.